6:30.
This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good evening. Captain Joseph Hazelwood was legally drunk when his Exxon Corporation tanker ran aground off the Alaskan coast. That is the official finding tonight of federal investigators looking into the worst oil spill in American history. Authorities have begun proceedings to revoke the captain's license. At the White House, President Bush was being advised that the Exxon Corporation's cleanup effort is going just fine. There are differing opinions about that in Alaska. John Blackstone in Valdez begins our coverage.
When the Exxon Valdez hit Bly Reef, the captain was not at the helm, but federal investigators now say he had a blood alcohol level above the legal limit.
The standard I quoted was 0.04, and the blood level in the captain's blood was 0.061.
The spill itself is now threatening the largest salmon hatchery on Prince William Sound. A wall of protective booms has turned the hatchery at Port San Juan into a fortress, but the fishermen say Exxon was slow to come to their aid.
It took a lot of force, a lot of kicking, a lot of screaming to get that done.
There's been a lot of screaming here since the accident on Good Friday, a holiday for Alyeska pipeline workers who should have responded first. A barge that was supposed to be on emergency standby with containment booms wasn't ready. When Exxon officials arrived in Valdez Friday night, the town was already angry.
At 2:30 this afternoon, there wasn't even a Kleenex in the water.
There hasn't been anything stockpiled here of any quantity that would take care of this major port.
But the man in charge of the Exxon cleanup seemed confident.
And I think in this case, we're going to have it all here in probably 24 hours or 30 hours, which still gives us plenty of time.
But the equipment did not arrive as planned. The few cleanup crews seemed overwhelmed. Late Saturday, Exxon finally attacked, spraying dispersant on the leading edge of the slick. But the dispersant didn't work. An attempt to burn some oil did work Saturday night, but hasn't worked since. Exxon seemed to be depending on a quick cleanup using chemicals, but on Sunday night, strong winds blew the slick all over islands, beaches, and bays.
It's unbelievable. That slick is moving like it's on a superhighway.
Willing cleanup workers have been flocking to Valdez. The hiring hall is overflowing, but Exxon hasn't been hiring.
I think the tail is wagging the dog. I don't know who's at the helm anymore.
Even workers Exxon has hired sometimes haven't done much. This boatload spent Tuesday at the oil spill, but came back clean.
Excuse me, you were wondering if you could tell us what's been going on up there?
Thanks,
In Exxon's war room, the flags tell a neat story, but on the front lines, there's confusion.
Oh, they're the
that
same
way
pumps.
When we get out there.
When are they supposed to be here?
I thought they were supposed to be on the boat.
But progress has finally been made, emptying remaining oil from the Exxon Valdez. That should be finished this weekend, ending the risk of an even larger spill. John Blackstone, CBS News, Valdez, Alaska.
We're doing all we can at the federal level to speed up this undertaking.
Even as the president made that claim, he had already decided not to take federal control of the Alaska cleanup. Huddled with top aides just back from a tour of the damage, Mr. Bush chose, in effect, to trust Exxon's promises to handle and pay for everything.
Exxon has made a commitment that they are going to basically put their money where their mouth is, and have made a commitment in people and in dollars to deal with this problem.
Skinner actually defended Exxon, saying the company wasn't organized until Monday, but was running things well now. Outraged environmentalists say the administration team was sold a company whitewash.
How can you believe this industry when they said they were going to clean it up in 5 hours and it taken them 3 days to even get started?
For now, the largest federal effort comes from the Coast Guard, with some 330 guardsmen aiding the Exxon cleanup. The Coast Guard will also decide whether to sue or prosecute the ship's crewmen, though the Commandant has already decided they were at fault.
It is not treacherous in the area they went aground. It's 10 miles wide. Your children could drive a tanker up through it.
Because they have decided this was a freakish accident, administration officials refuse to drop plans to explore for more oil in Alaska's wildlife reserves.
It is inconceivable that any nation would walk away from the resources that may exist in the magnitude that is potentially there.
Sources say the White House shunned the lead role in the cleanup because of a sense that despite Exxon's problems, the federal government could do no better. This way, the administration avoids millions of dollars in costs and direct responsibility for an unpopular, impossible job. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, the White House.
Bad as this Alaska oil tanker spill is, there has been worse. The worst tanker spill ever in the world was in 1978 off the coast of France. CBS News Paris correspondent Doug Tennell reports on some of what was learned from that.
Fishermen like Joseph Feely remember how this little port in Brittany looked 11 years ago as if it were yesterday. The breakers in the bay were black, he says. The beach had the consistency and color of chocolate mud. When the Amico Cadiz coated the French coast with 7 times more oil than the Valdez spill, some people here believed the sea was dead. But unlike the Alaska spill, the tanker here broke apart in heavy seas, ideal conditions for the oil to disperse. And people all along this coast responded immediately to a crisis in their own backyards.
A huge army of volunteers, I mean literally tens of thousands, pushed the oil into the holes, and they simply pumped it out, put it into road tankers, and then drove the whole lot away.
Within 10 days, the volunteer army was joined by the French armed forces in a government-sponsored multi-million-dollar effort. It was like a military crusade for Alain Medec, whose family has farmed oysters here for 3 generations. The government put 150 soldiers under his command, day and night, for 6 long months. His beds were out of production for 3 years, while others around the estuary went bankrupt.
Everyone we talked to here said when they sought compensation in an American court, they came up against a legal system that just couldn't imagine the ravages of a major oil spill. Now people here are planning to appeal the court's rulings, and they're hoping that the spill in Alaska will make a difference.
The black tide of Amico made a big difference in France. It spawned a new institute devoted exclusively to coping with accidental maritime pollution. The government tightened laws on shipping and financed research into new ways to clean up. Now, Alaska has called on French companies for advice and materials. But for all the money and the man-hours spent here, the cleanup effort still fell far short of complete success. Joseph Feely says the fishing here has never been as good again. And even though the waves are white, the oil stains along the rocks just seem to harden with the years. Doug Tennell, CBS News, Brittany.
Still to come on the CBS Evening News, correspondent Terrence Smith on a Pentagon go-ahead for National Guard reinforcements in the war on drugs. And Bob McNamara on the withering of the winter wheat this spring on America's Great Plains.
A recent test compared the Toyota Tercel stick shift, the Hyundai Excel stick shift, and the Subaru Justy automatic. But we made it tougher on the Justy, because you don't shift the Justy, and its ECVT automatic makes it accelerate and pass quicker than the Hyundai and the Toyota. Proof that Subaru can beat the competition with one arm tied behind its back.
Get $500 back on a Subaru Justy or 4.9 financing through May 2nd.
You've just been caught knocking off the Kellogg's Cracklin' Oat brand. How do you handle the consequences?
Did you eat all the Cracklin' Oat bran?
Who, me?
Did you eat all the Cracklin' Oat bran? Did you eat all the Cracklin' Oat bran?
I didn't do it. I did not do it. No, absolutely not.
With the crunchy sweet taste of Kellogg's Cracklin' Oat bran, an open box is an empty box.
The biggest final week. Color Tile's biggest sale of all. Save up to 55% on every in-stock ceramic tile. This handsome look just 58 cents. Elegant florals only 68 cents. Every in-stock Armstrong Sundial Solarian sheet vinyl as low as $7.99. Every in-stock wood parquet from just $1.48 a square foot. A huge selection of vinyl tiles. This stylish look just 79 cents. The lowest prices of the year. Now at Color Tile's biggest sale of all. Hurry, sale ends Sunday.
Some months ago, the CBS Evening News reported signs that President Bush appeared to be quietly trying to link Soviet desires for another arms control deal and more U.S. capital with his desire for a reduced Soviet role in the Caribbean and Central America. One of Mr. Bush's spokesmen confirmed today that the president is now asking Mikhail Gorbachev for help in Central America. He did not confirm any specific linkage with things Gorbachev wants from the U.S. Gorbachev begins a series of meetings with Fidel Castro this weekend in Havana. U.S. Defense Secretary Dick Cheney today authorized more National Guard use against drug traffickers. This is a relief to generals and admirals who have been concerned about increased calls in Congress for the regular U.S. military to be assigned to more duties in the drug fight. CBS News correspondent Terrence Smith has more about Cheney's decision.
Military involvement in the nation's war on drugs escalated today when the Pentagon gave the go-ahead, doubling the number of National Guardsmen who help police crack down on illegal drug smuggling. In the first phase of a $40 million program approved by Congress, Guardsmen in a dozen border states will step up their anti-drug activities, including radar and aerial surveillance, helping customs agents search for drugs at border points, and sending out patrols to spot low-flying aircraft and ground traffic. In Texas, beginning this Saturday, 2 National Guardsmen will be added to every customs official, tripling the manpower at ports of entry. The soldiers will be unarmed and have no power of arrest.
I must make it absolutely clear to you that the National Guard is not being employed as professional law enforcement officers. Our job is to support them.
The Guardsmen, whose numbers will grow to some 8,000, will be volunteers paid by the federal government but under the jurisdiction of their state governors.
The state guards, as I understand it, operating in their capacity as part of the, under the authority of the governor, have a different legal status.
Congressional and other critics have raised doubts in the past about the wisdom and propriety of using the military for law enforcement purposes. But given the current frustration in Washington about the uphill battle against drugs, there were no voices of dissent raised against today's decision. Terrence Smith, CBS News, Washington.
After 5.5 weeks of testimony, the prosecution rested today in the criminal trial of Oliver North. North is charged with lying to Congress, destroying evidence, and other felonies in the Weapons for Iran missing money case. The defense opens next week. North's lawyers argued again today that he can't get a fair trial unless Ronald Reagan testifies. Mr. Reagan doesn't want to do that and is claiming executive privilege to avoid it. But the defense insisted today that as a private citizen, Mr. Reagan should be no different from any other witness. The judge promised a ruling on that issue tomorrow. Follow-up now on our report last week of what could be a major scientific breakthrough, nuclear fusion, achieved for the first time at room temperature. Another researcher, this time at Brigham Young University, is now claiming success with so-called cold fusion. Fusion combines atoms, smashes them together to produce energy, rather than splitting them, as with fission, the way nuclear plants now do it. This latest experiment produced only small amounts of energy, we're told. Last week, researchers at the University of Utah claimed that their fusion at room temperature, their fusion reaction produced 4 times as much energy as it consumed, holding the potential for cheap, virtually limitless supplies of clean energy.
When the burning, itching, and soreness of hemorrhoids flare up, Tux medicated pads give you soothing, cooling relief on contact. For hemorrhoid flare-up, get Tux from Park Davis.
The truth is, heart specialists concerned about aspirin irritation recommend Ecotrin over Bayer to help prevent second heart attack. Consult your doctor about the only brand of aspirin that's safety coated to protect your stomach. That's Ecotrin, and that's the truth.
Introducing Total Raisin Bran. Other raisin brands have only 1/4 as much vitamin nutrition. And eating a Raisin Bran with only 1/4 the vitamin nutrition you could get is like having Mount Rushmore.
Hey.
With only one president. New Total Raisin Bran is the only raisin bran with 100% of 11 vitamins and minerals. Total nutrition has finally come to Raisin Bran.
Make it easy on yourself.
Because you've got things to do and places to go, Easy Off makes greasy cleanups easy on ovens, broilers, frying pans, glass casseroles, and lots more.
Make it easy on yourself.
Easy Off Oven Cleaner gets into tight spots scouring pads find hard to reach. It does a lot in the kitchen, so you can do more out of it.
Make it easy on yourself.
With original heavy-duty Easy Off.
Syrian gunners fired rockets into Beirut's main fuel depot today, setting off huge fires that forced 50,000 people to leave their homes. At least 2 people were killed. That brings the toll to 125 dead in 3 weeks of artillery warfare between the Christian military government and Muslim forces allied with Syria. An estimated 250,000 people have fled Beirut for safer areas of Lebanon. Israeli troops shot and killed 3 Palestinians and wounded 33 in fighting on the occupied West Bank and Gaza today. In Israel itself, some 700,000 Arabs staged a general strike on the anniversary of another bloody clash with the Israeli authorities. Our correspondent Bob Simon is on the scene.
The Holy Land was colored red and green today as Israeli Arabs marched through the Galilee to mark Land Day, an annual protest against the government's confiscation of their land. Communists waved red, Muslim militants waved green. Thousands raised their hands in defiance. These are all Israeli citizens. They go to Israeli schools, vote in Israeli elections, enjoy Israeli civil rights, unlike their Palestinian cousins in the occupied territories, who are largely confined to their homes and villages today, as the army tried to prevent the Intifada from spilling over into Israel. Near the biblical town of Hebron, a Palestinian boy slung a stone at an Israeli settler at point-blank range. The settler tried to run him down, then went after him with an Uzi, firing into the bushes, but apparently causing no harm. Israeli Arabs are increasingly torn between their citizenship and their sympathies. They're being pushed to the periphery, both of Israeli society and of the Palestinian movement. Frustration in this part of the world often means fundamentalism, and that's exactly what's happening. In municipal elections earlier this month, fundamentalist candidates were swept into power in Arab towns. They did it, they say, by doing what the Israeli government had never done, by giving people what they needed.
We had clinics, we had schools, we had kindergartens, we had built mosques, paved streets.
31-year-old Ibrahim Abdullah is the new mayor of Kfar Qasim, a few miles from the swankiest suburbs of Tel Aviv. He is the smiling face of fundamentalism. Israelis see him as one more threat to the Jewish state.
The Islamic movement is trying to depict itself as the real alternative to the Israeli rule.
Land Day commemorates the 30th of March 1976, when 6 Arabs were killed in a protest. That was an extraordinary event back then, and that's how much things have changed. Bob Simon, CBS News, Kfar Qasim.
Leaders of a prison revolt reached an agreement with the government of Guatemala today, and they ended a violent takeover at a maximum security prison. At least 8 people were killed in the uprising that started with a failed escape attempt on Easter Sunday. The inmates held hundreds of visitors inside as troops surrounded the prison and authorities cut off food, water, and electricity. Today, the government agreed to the inmates' demand to replace the prison director and all of the guards. The government also promised a nationwide prison reform without giving specifics.
Gas pain, bloating. Gas-X has the strongest, fastest relief ingredient. Painful gas is like beer bubbles. Add the leading antacid. Add Gas-X. Only Gas-X gets rid of the gas. The strongest, fastest reliever for gas pain and bloating. Gas-X.
What do more drivers say after an oil change with Pennzoil at Jiffy Lube?
I can drive for miles and miles. I can drive for miles and miles. I can drive for miles and miles and miles and miles.
Every 3,000 miles, quality Pennzoil, lube, fluids, 10 minutes. Jiffy Lube, we give more cars more miles and miles.
Miles and miles and
I had had a cesarean section, and I was concerned about taking any medication because I was nursing my son. The hospital staff gave me Tylenol. I felt it was important that it was safe enough to take while I was nursing.
Carol Hodges trusts Tylenol, the pain reliever hospitals use most. If nursing, consult your doctor before use.
I know I can trust Tylenol because it was given to me by a doctor that I trust.
Now try new gelatin-coated gel caps, only from Tylenol.
You know this stuff's been around for 90 years?
It's still crunchy.
It started with an honest, nutty taste.
And they stayed with it, right?
Yep, that's integrity.
But once in a while, they ought to put a decoder ring in here.
Post Grape Nut Cereal, the one and only.
Oklahoma State University made it official today. Heisman Trophy winner Barry Sanders, a junior, is leaving the school and hopes to enter the professional football draft. Sanders set college records last year for rushing yardage and touchdowns. He recently acquired an agent, and that makes him ineligible for his senior season. In Chicago, the defense rested today in the federal trial of 2 agents charged with preying on college athletes with pro potential. Correspondent Gary Reeves is covering that trial.
The fraud and racketeering trial of sports agents Norby Walters and Lloyd Bloom has revealed dramatic allegations of mob involvement in college athletics. Confessed organized crime captain Michael Franzese testified he paid $50,000 cash to become a silent partner in the agency that once represented 44 potential professional football and basketball stars. Bloom and Walters say they broke no laws when they gave thousands of dollars in gifts and loans to top college players, convincing them to secretly hire the agents months before college rules allow.
Most of the agents choose to ignore the rules of the NCAA, which they are not bound by. And most of the young men seem to ignore the rules of the NCAA. And what Norby Walters has done has just come along and joined the gang.
The agents targeted young black stars like the University of Iowa's running back Ronnie Harmon. With his father present, Harmon recorded a tape as Walters offered a big loan and monthly payments in exchange for the right to a percentage of Harmon's future pro earnings.
Now you don't have to send Ronnie 50 or 100 a month and he should have to go pocket money. He now is picking up the money from me. Yeah. And we also taking the gamble. He has to worry about being caught.
The agents say they just found a niche in a corrupt system that exploits players for their athletic abilities. Harmon, for example, slid by with a D average, taking classes like billiards and watercoloring, finally dropping out after he led his school to the Rose Bowl. School officials say academics come first.
The student athlete must be a student first, an athlete second.
Players who tried to break their contracts with Bloom and Walters say they were threatened. Chicago Bear Maurice Douglas testified Bloom said he might have somebody break my legs. Franzese, nicknamed the Yuppie Don, told jurors he never threatened players, but did provide the muscle that helped Walters prosper in the music business. Franzese says he tried and failed to control the Jackson 5's 1981 tour, but claims his reputation in New York's Colombo crime family was enough to convince Dionne Warwick's manager not to fire Walters. Warwick herself testified there were no threats. The agent scandal and their alleged connection to organized crime has prompted at least 15 states to try to toughen the laws that govern agents, hoping to redeem the tarnished image of college sports. Gary Reeves, CBS News, Chicago.
Winners of the Pulitzer Prizes for 1989 were announced today. The prize for general news reporting goes to the Louisville Courier-Journal for its coverage of the Kentucky school bus tragedy. The Anchorage Daily News was awarded the gold medal for public service for a series on alcoholism and suicide among Native Alaskans. In the fiction book category, the prize goes to Breathing Lessons by Ann Tyler. For general nonfiction, the winner is A Bright Shining Lie, John Paul Vann, An America in Vietnam, by the distinguished war correspondent Neil Sheehan. And the Pulitzer Prize winner in drama is Wendy Wasserstein for her play, The Heidi Chronicles.
I used pressure-treated lumber, and I still have $800 in water damage. How come?
Even treated wood needs Thompson's Water Seal protection.
This patio was supposed to last for years. Now I have $1,200 in damage. Why?
Your concrete wasn't protected with Thompson's Water Seal. Thompson's penetrates into wood, brick, or concrete to form a barrier water can't get past, even when driven by 98-mile-per-hour winds.
Let it rain. This time I use Thompson's, a great defense against repair expense.
Thompson's, the first name in lasting protection.
Miss.
There are headaches. And headaches. There's aspirin and Anacin. The Anacin aspirin formula relieves headaches better than regular aspirin.
Feel better?
Not just better, better.
Anacin, better relief.
Now at Red Lobster, one great thing deserves another and another. Introducing our great seafood trios. For a limited time, find 6 new trios starting at $7.95. More of everything you crave. Like 3 great tastes of lobster, a new trio of shrimp and crab. Something for everyone. Starting at just $7.95. Kids' dinner, $1.95. Don't miss the great seafood trios at Red Lobster. And get a ½ pound of snow crab legs for just $3.95 with any entree.
See the colors of Puerto Rico, colors, colors everywhere. the shining star.
Late development on the business page. Texas Air this evening reportedly rejected a $464 million buyout offer for Eastern Airlines, crippled by strikes. The offer was made by a group that included outgoing baseball commissioner Peter Ueberroth. Much of the American Midwest is still trying to recover from last year's drought, but already there are signs that more of the same may be on the way. Bob McNamara has been traveling the Great Plains.
It was spooky. Dust storms darkening the daytime Kansas skies. But worse, the 70-mile-per-hour winds severely damaging nearly 5 million acres of an already drought-sickened winter wheat crop.
Where there used to be wheat, it's dirt now. You go out in the field, it's half green, the other half is dirt. I don't know whether we can get any money out of dirt bushels or not.
Less than a year after 1988's devastating drought, America's winter wheat crop is again in trouble. Little snow, less rain, and another predicted dry summer threatening more than half of the billion-dollar Kansas wheat crop alone. It stretches memories 30 years.
Of course, there's more at stake now. Operating costs are much higher. There's a lot more investment here to lose than back then.
Today, like many Kansas farmers, Andy Larson makes a last-ditch run to save a bone-dry wheat field, chiseling up furrows to stop winds from burying or blowing away what's left of a stunted crop.
A normal wheat plant at this time of year would be approximately 3 inches taller and have at least 3 times as many leaves on it.
Though costly irrigation is again counted on to save tens of thousands of acres of wheat, water supplies to towns are running critically low.
People would be water skiing in this area. You would have had 6, 8, 10 foot of water in this particular sand pit.
Hayes is now one of 90 Kansas towns already restricting water use or planning total bans on summer lawn watering.
Everyone remembers the dirty 30s and that sort of thing, but even during the dirty 30s, they had more precipitation.
Still, the biggest worry is for the Kansas winter wheat, a crop that is 16 to 17% of the nation's harvest, a commodity whose casualty toll is counted in the chance of auctioneers when it fails.
It'd be kind of like you not having a paycheck for a year, and how long could you last? About 2 years, you're done.
Drought, farmers like to say, is nothing a good rain wouldn't cure. But while the fields of western Kansas still dust up like talcum powder, showers the other day soaked and muddied the fields of the central part of the state. And for the first time since last fall, they splashed a little bit of hope into small towns where a raindrop is still worth its weight in gold. Bob McNamara, CBS News, Dodge City, Kansas.
And that's the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather. We'll hope you stay tuned now for 48 hours, a fascinating behind-the-scenes look at the Los Angeles court system, indicative in many ways of what's happening with courts all over the country. That's 48 hours tonight at 8, 7 Central Time. See you then.
LA Justice, the real world of crime and punishment inside the busiest court system in the nation. 48 hours tonight.
This is CBS.